Greninja in Smash 4 was a solid character. He's very fast, he has a solid zoning game, and he has a good and cool combo game. I'm not even doing the most optimal version of this combo, by the way. However, his frame data is lacking in areas with plenty of slow and laggy moves. His fast faller status makes him easy to combo. He has a poor disadvantage state with weak landing options. He has a bad out of shield game, and he was generally an inconsistent character. Greninja was one of the hardest characters to play in Smash 4, and while he had some good combo tools, those tools had rather definitive counterplay, and the combos themselves were not the easiest to set up or pull off. Greninja was overall typically seen as a mid-tier character by the later stages of the game's life. He had the mobility and he could do some pretty nutty stuff when mastered, but he was also a difficult and inconsistent character who struggled against numerous of the game's better characters. But of course, Smash 4 was a game which received numerous patches, and Greninja himself received quite a few significant changes throughout the game's life. Back when Smash 4 was in its vanilla state on 3DS, Greninja was a highly hyped up character. He was a popular competitive character, and some people believe that he was one of the best characters in the game. Although people's opinions on him were definitely divided. Some people thought he was broken, some people thought he was fair and balanced. And the former view is the one which is more commonly spread in recent years. So how does he go from being potentially broken from them to a mid-tier now? Was he really that much better back then, or were the other good characters that much worse? Well, I can already tell you that the latter certainly wasn't true, so that either leaves us with the former, or maybe the people who were more critical towards Greninja back then were right. So let's find out. Also, as a side note, custom color Greninja represents the final version of the game, while normal Greninja represents earlier versions. First of all, Greninja can be in the air for one more frame before going into his hard landing lag animation. To explain this in a simple way, if Greninja does a short hop, he would get 4 frames of landing lag in the vanilla 3DS version, but in later versions he will only get 2 frames of landing lag. This is a minor but nice change. Also in the vanilla 3DS version, Greninja's head and body hurt boxes were smaller, which naturally made him harder to hit. Greninja can be a tough character to hit due to his mobility and posture, and the smaller hurt boxes meant that Greninja was even harder to hit on vanilla 3DS. Another minor change, but this time it was actually a negative change. But now that I've covered Greninja's minor attribute changes, it's time to look at his moveset changes, and oh boy, there is quite a bit to cover here, so let's get right into it. Let's start off with Greninja's dash attack. Dash attack comes out on frame 7 currently, but originally, it came out 2 frames slower on frame 9. Dash attack is a great burst movement option for Greninja, being good as a whiff punish or as an out of shield punish. The move's ending lag isn't too high and it can lead into potential follow-ups. The move becoming 2 frames faster simply made it easier and more applicable to land, being a really nice change for Greninja overall. Forward tilt saw a couple of changes. The move deals 7.3% currently, but originally it only dealt 6.5%. The move deals more knockback on Greninja's foot, but the closer hitboxes deal less knockback than they used to. Those changes aren't anything too special, but forward tilt did receive another much more significant change. Forward tilt originally had 9 more frames of ending lag.
Yes.
Forward tilt was originally a much laggier move, having 41 total frames. That is quite long for a frame 10 tilt which doesn't kill. The move was minus 29 on shield, which is really bad. Currently, it is only minus 16 on shield, which is a lot more reasonable. The move can even be safe when spaced, which is a lot less possible in earlier versions. This higher ending lag not only made the move significantly more unsafe on shield, but it even made the move unsafe on hit. At 0%, the move was minus 15 on hit, which is just silly. This meant that your opponent could punish you with a KO move or a combo starter without too much trouble after getting hit, which is as silly as it sounds. Currently, the move ranges from minus 5 to minus 1 on hit at 0%, depending on how close the opponent is when they get hit, which at least means the move is no longer punishable on hit. Forward tilt is an alright spacing tool in the current version of Smash 4, but man, it was just shockingly bad in earlier versions. How this man even thought that this forward tilt was okay is beyond me, and it was definitely improved in a satisfying way later on. But now it's time to look at Greninja smash attacks, and all of them were changed. Greninja's forward smash used to deal a bit less knockback. Currently, it KOs Mario at the middle of Battlefield at 119%, but in earlier versions, it KO'd him around 3% later. Even later on 3DS due to the larger blast zones in said version. Okay. Down smash also used to be weaker, but the difference is a bit more significant. Currently, down smash deals 13% at far range and 11% at close range. The sweet spot KOs Mario in the middle of battlefield at 130% and the sour spot KOs him at 154%. In the vanilla 3DS version, however, the move only dealt 11% at far range and 9% at close range, with the sweet spot not KOing Mario until over 150%. As for the sour spot, just look. Greninja's down smash was really slow and really laggy in Smash 4, and the reward for landing the move on vanilla 3DS was disproportionately quite low, making the move really not worth it. The move got a solid increase in power in later versions, although if I'm being honest, the move was still too weak for how slow it was, but hey, at least it was a significant improvement. I've talked about almost all of Greninja's ground moves which were changed, but you may have noticed something. All of these moves were worse in the vanilla 3DS version, and then they were buffed later on. So you might be thinking, but how was Greninja broken then? Every move you have spoken about so far was buffed, so how was Greninja originally a better character? Well, my dear viewer, you're in luck, because I have one more ground move to cover, and this move was indeed better in the vanilla 3DS version. Everyone, I will now be talking about Greninja's up smash. Greninja's up smash in Smash 4 is a really nice move. It hits hard, it has great vertical range, making it a strong anti-air. Greninja covers a lot of ground when using a running up smash, and it can even hit on both sides. Up smash can be used as a combo ender, and it can be a really deadly one in the right scenarios, even if those confirms can be avoided with DI. As good as up smash is now though, it used to be even better. Let's start off with the less egregious things. Up smash used to be a tiny bit weaker when you landed the sweet spot, and by a tiny bit, I mean that it used to kill 1 or 2% later. The difference was more significant on vanilla 3DS as you did have LSI for vertical launching moves, but even still, this up smash was still quite strong compared to other up smashes. I see. Wait, that's a buff! And to that I say, let's look at the things that were nerfed. In the vanilla 3DS version, up smash had more range. This made the move an even better anti-air, and it covered more horizontal distance as well. In addition to this, the side hitboxes were stronger. They currently deal 11% and they KO Mario at 162% in the middle of battlefield. In the vanilla 3DS version, however, they dealt 13% and they KO'd a good bit earlier. The late hit was also stronger, dealing 1% more damage and more knockback. While these were good traits that made vanilla 3DS Greninja's up smash better, there was one more extra advantage it had which pushed it over the edge. That's not what I meant. Up smash had less ending lag in the vanilla 3DS version. How much less? 10 frames. You heard that right. 10 frames. Where did all those frames come from? Oh yeah, they came from forward tilt. This lower ending lag had multiple effects, the first of which being that the move was safer. The side hits are currently -25 on shield at worst, but originally, they were -19 at worst.
Yes.
Greninja had a really strong up smash that hit on both sides and was less than -20 on shield. It was a little bit silly to say the least. Up smash could actually be pretty hard to punish on shield depending on how Greninja used it, so you kind of had to rely on power shield to punish the up smash. To be fair, as these side hits came out in frame 18, reacting to them with a power shield wasn't completely out of the question, but still, you had to be on point with your reactions to get the power shield, because on normal shield, the move had the potential to be downright safe, which is just crazy. And if you got hit, it wasn't the most pleasant experience. This also meant that spot dodging and air dodging to avoid the move didn't give the opponent much time to punish Greninja at all. If any. Greninja could even recover before you did in some instances, and that was not ideal in the slightest. Naturally, with the move having 10 frames more ending lag in all later versions, dodging the move into a punish became more feasible. The second effect that this lower ending lag had is that it was so low that you could combo out of up smash. Up smash is a combo ender now, pretty much having no combo potential, but originally, it was a combo starter and extender. At certain percents, up smash would combo into up air pretty easily, and this would lead into quite a chunk of damage on its own. And if your opponent's at the right percent and you are feeling confident, you could potentially do some chunky combos. And I mean some really chunky combos. This whole thing is avoidable with DI and LSI, but it just shows how powerful up smash can be in combos. You could also do this. This was completely avoidable with DI, but it's still funny that it works with no DI. In general, the counterplay to up smash was to LSI up at lower percents, as that would prevent up air from comboing much sooner. Especially the nasty drag down up air stuff. At higher percents, you would opt for no LSI or LSI down to live longer. Don't LSI up smash downwards too early though, or up smash can literally combo into itself, which hurts a lot. LSIing up too late would also result in you dying very early. Up smash pretty much lost all of its combo potential in later versions, which is probably for the better. Greninja having that up smash in a game without vertical LSI would have been too much. I mean, you wouldn't want this to be pretty much guaranteed rather than avoidable now, would you? Greninja's up smash in vanilla 3DS was absolutely insane. It didn't come out particularly fast and you did have to hit the opponent above you for it to be at its most effective, but it was strong, it was relatively safe, and you could get some really powerful combos if your opponent wasn't careful. While the move is still good now, it was definitely gutted and it simply isn't the it used to be. I will say, however, that I think that this move was over-nerfed. Increasing the ending lag honestly would have been enough to make this move fair. Not that kind of fair. And you know what? That exact thing did happen. In the vanilla Wii U version, which is basically a halfway done version of the 1.0.4 patch, the only change made to up smash was that it had more ending lag, and that would have been enough to make this move not insane. It still had the bigger hitboxes and the stronger side hits, but it did have a significantly higher amount of ending lag. Instead, they additionally nerfed the hitboxes and the power of the side hits, which was just unnecessary. As fun as using the original up smash was, it was a bit too much, but the extent that they nerfed the move was also a bit too much. But before I move on, I just want to mention one more thing. Because if I don't mention it, I know that somebody's going to bring it up and ask why I didn't mention it. I've heard tales about how Greninja in vanilla 3DS had a Dacus which covered 3/4 of Final Destination, and well, here's Greninja's Dacus. That's maybe 3/4 of the way to that rock. And here's Greninja's running up smash as a comparison. Yeah. Greninja's Dacus covers less distance than a running up smash, which makes it rather useless. Especially since it's near impossible to actually perform, or even literally impossible on a real 3DS. Unless there's some hidden Discord tech which has been lost to the sands of time, Greninja can't just teleport across the stage with up smash as far as I can tell, and especially not with a Dacus. But regardless, rip Dacus. I will forever miss you. Now that I've spent way too much time talking about Greninja's up smash, let's look at his aerials. Back air used to have 3 more frames of landing lag, which naturally made it more unsafe in addition to giving it less combo potential. Forward air also used to have 3 more frames of landing lag, which was not great. The move is currently only -5 on shield, which is pretty good. The move is safe against the majority of the cast at close range, and Greninja can space it to make the move safe against the entire cast, but originally, it was -14 on shield. This made the move significantly more punishable, and even if Greninja spaced the move to be safe, the opponent still had the frame advantage to set up pressure, which is just not the case now. Greninja did have a mix-up to make a landing forward air safer to an extent in the vanilla 3DS version, but
we get there when we get there!
While it did have higher landing lag, forward air did have an additional advantage in vanilla 3DS compared to all later versions. Forward air was stronger. It currently KOs Mario in the middle of Battlefield at 157%, but in vanilla 3DS, it KO'd from center stage around 15% earlier. This is quite nice, as Greninja does have ways to lead into a forward air for potential KO setups, and those setups did KO earlier in the vanilla 3DS version. The higher knockback, however, did mean that forward air was a worse combo starter along with its higher landing lag, but the move having more knockback was still better overall, I'd say. Greninja's up air is probably his most interesting aerial. Not only is it a nice combo ender and a decent KO move, but it is also a formidable combo tool due to its ability to drag down opponents. In the vanilla 3DS version, up air had a couple of additional advantages. First of all, let's look at the multi-hits. In the vanilla 3DS version, all of the multi-hits use the auto-link angle, which allows them to connect into each other reliably, regardless of how Greninja uses the move. In all later versions, however, the first 4 hits work like this, but the 5th hit no longer does. Instead, it consistently launches the opponent upwards with set knockback. This makes Greninja's drag down up air combos less consistent, although they are still entirely possible and they are harder to avoid due to the removal of vertical LSI. The much dumber thing this does, however, is that it makes up air connect less reliably. For example, if I do a short hop up air against Mario on vanilla 3DS, it works just fine. But if I do it in the current version of the game, it just doesn't work a chunk of the time. In other words, they literally broke a functional multi-hit move in a patch. Up air didn't become completely dysfunctional, but it's also not rare to just fall out the up air occasionally. Second of all, the final hit used to be stronger. The final hit on its own currently KOs Mario at 209% on Battlefield on the ground. In vanilla 3DS, it KO'd him around 30% earlier. That is quite a significant difference, although do keep in mind that this difference is quite a bit smaller when the move is used near the upper blast zone. And when the move is DI'd, since you can LSI the final hit in vanilla 3DS but not in later versions. This made up air quite a bit scary in vanilla 3DS, especially since the move actually worked properly and you could use it as a combo ender. But before I move on, I do want to mention one more thing. In the vanilla Wii U version, they broke the multi-hits, but they did not make the final hit weaker. If anything, it hit even harder in vanilla Wii U than vanilla 3DS due to the smaller blast zones and the removal of vertical LSI. This is just hilarious. Sakurai and his team thought of the idea to make up air a less functional multi-hit move first before deciding to make the move weaker. That is just so backwards that it's funny. Greninja's standing grab is one of the most tragic things about the character. While it does have decent disjointed range and low ending lag, it comes out really slowly at frame 11. This notably gave Greninja a bad out of shield game as his grab was really slow and his only other alternative to punish out of shield quickly was to drop shield to do his ground moves, which isn't ideal to deal with safer moves. As bad as this is, however, Greninja's standing grab used to be even worse. It originally came out 3 frames slower on frame 14. That is just abysmal. I mean, look at this! It doesn't even match the animation! This made Greninja's out of shield game considerably worse in earlier versions as he could not punish with his grab as often. Currently, Greninja can punish -9 or even -8 moves with his grab depending on the matchup, but before, he couldn't. He had to rely much more on his jab to punish, which is a frame 10 option, but it naturally did lose a shield, which grab doesn't. Power shielding does speed up jab to frame 3, which is great for Greninja, but a perfect power shield punish isn't the most applicable thing in the world, and Greninja couldn't use his grab out of power shield as well due to its slower speed. The one good thing about standing grab, however, is that it technically had 3 frames less ending lag since it came out 3 frames later, but here's the thing, that doesn't matter. Standing grab still has the same total duration. If you preemptively spot dodge or roll in a way that would avoid both grabs, your frame advantage against Greninja will be the exact same in all versions. If you spot dodge or roll in a way that barely avoids Greninja's old standing grab, you would have simply been grabbed in the current version. The one thing which did mitigate standing grab being slower to an extent, however, was that earlier versions of the game had less shield stun, which generally made a lot more things unsafe. This did mean that Greninja could punish moves in the past he no longer can, but the thing was that Greninja still could not punish many moves many other characters could, and it made his own moves more punishable. Some of you mathematicians watching may have picked up on numbers in this video which didn't quite add up. Like, you said forward air had 3 frames more landing lag, but you also said it was 9 frames worse on shield. How is that possible? Well, the lower shield stun is how. Neutral air, for example, is -4 on shield now, which is completely safe on normal shield against most of the cast, but before, it was -8, allowing most characters to punish it. Not including Greninja himself, though. Hehe. As for Greninja's throws, the only one that was changed was down throw. Down throw currently deals 5% and has a decent amount of ending lag. At very low percents, it can lead into a jab or down tilt against fast fallers, which is nice, as up throw may not combo against them at very low percents. In earlier versions, however, down throw dealt 6% and had different knockback. Okay. It also had 7 frames more ending lag, which meant that it couldn't combo into anything. It couldn't combo and it couldn't kill, making it pretty much useless unlike currently. Up throw has always been the same move, but I will say that it was less effective on vanilla 3DS as you could LSI it. LSI up could allow the opponent to escape Greninja's up throw up air 50/50s much sooner, which was nice considering that up air was stronger back then. While LSI down made up throw a less viable KO throw at higher percents. Now it's time to look at Greninja's special moves. Water Shuriken was a very useful move for Greninja, being a fast projectile that was overall a solid zoning tool. In earlier versions of the game, the move came out 5 frames slower. That's right, it was 5 whole frames slower. This made the move considerably slower and easier to avoid, making it a weaker zoning tool overall. Water Shuriken is one of Greninja's most important tools, so the move becoming a whole 5 frames faster is actually pretty significant. While the move was still 5 frames slower in the vanilla 3DS version, it did have an extra advantage it did not have in any later versions. Water Shuriken had 7 frames less ending lag on the ground after throwing the Shuriken, making the whole move 2 frames faster overall. This naturally makes Shurikens even more spammable on the ground as they are safer and you can use more of them in a shorter period of time. Aerial Shurikens have the same amount of ending lag in both versions, but using Shurikens in the air isn't always ideal to say the least. The more notable thing this lower ending lag did, however, is that it gave Shurikens better combo potential. Fully charged Shuriken has good combo potential in the final game, but in vanilla 3DS, you had considerably more leniency to combo out the move, and Greninja has a couple of extra combo options out of the move. Greninja could notably land an up smash as a KO confirm if he landed the charged Shuriken close enough, which he can't do in later versions. But more interestingly, this also gave non-fully charged Shurikens better combo potential. Uncharged Shurikens currently have very limited combo potential, but vanilla 3DS, they could lead into notable follow-ups. They could notably lead into a forward aerial for a KO confirm in the right scenarios, which could lead to some early KOs. It could even potentially lead into an up smash against floatier characters. These follow-ups flat out don't work in later versions due to the move's higher ending lag. The issue with this, however, is that you had to be very close in order for this to work, and you did have to partially charge a slow projectile. Not only that, but the opponent could also DI to avoid the confirms. So while uncharged Shurikens could be powerful in the right scenarios, good luck actually landing them against a good opponent. So were Shurikens better back then or now?
I don't know.
They are harder to avoid now as they come out significantly faster, but they were overall safer originally due to their lower ending lag. You can still get the lower ending lag in the final game by throwing Shurikens in the air, which while not always ideal, it is good that you have that option. Shurikens did have better combo potential in vanilla 3DS, but actually landing them in a way where you can take full advantage of that is not very practical at all at top level. So I'd say this was a minor factor in the grand scheme of things. But whether Shurikens were better back then or not, this doesn't change the conclusion I'm going to come to at the end of the video, which I wrote and recorded before I learned that Water Shuriken had less ending lag on vanilla 3DS. Hydro Pump was originally quite a bit stronger in the vanilla 3DS version. Watch what happens when I hit Mario with his move at 100% in the final version of the game. Now watch what happens when I hit him in the vanilla 3DS version. Whoa. This made the move an even cheesier edgeguarding option, although it isn't the easiest thing to land, and sometimes you can even inadvertently save your opponent. As funny as this move was on vanilla 3DS, that's just what it was. It's funny. It's not broken, it's just funny. But now it's time for the special move which received the most changes. Shadow Sneak. Let's start off with some basic things. Shadow Sneak used to be a bit weaker. The front hit used to KO around 7% later in the vanilla 3DS version, while the back hit KO'd around 5% later. The move also had 5 frames more ending lag on vanilla 3DS, which was really not good. Shadow Sneak is already a pretty laggy move in Smash 4, so the fact that it had even more lag in the vanilla 3DS version is just crazy. The move is in the low -30s on Shield currently, which is really bad, but in vanilla 3DS, it was around -45, which is just crazy. Now let's look at some of the more interesting things you can do with Shadow Sneak. First of all, you could use Shadow Sneak to cancel non-tumble hit stun. Just mash side B and you'll get out hit stun. This could naturally be useful at times, although it was rather slow and it would not always guarantee a hit, with it even leaving Greninja punishable at times. This was never patched out, even though other hit stun cancelling techniques in vanilla were patched. You can still do this in the current version of Smash 4, and it's even better now. Shadow Sneak hits harder and has less ending lag. But now let's actually look at some techniques which didn't make it into the final version of the game. In earlier versions of the game, you could use Shadow Sneak while dashing. The execution is weird and you can't do anything except move and jump, but it is an extra thing Greninja could do with Shadow Sneak. The thing about this is that it was nerfed in a bug fix patch which came out right after the game's first big patch, and people were mad. The whole better nerf Greninja thing already became a meme after the first balance patch, and this patch fueled the fire even more. Removing this technique was completely unnecessary. It was a very committal technique which was overall very situational at best, so removing it was just one of the numerous examples of the developers removing unique tech for no real reason other than to make the game work as intended. Greninja did not deserve this, and I can totally see why it fueled the whole better nerf Greninja narrative, but at the same time, it was also basically an irrelevant nerf. But there's still one more thing to talk about, and this was something which was only in the vanilla 3DS version. In the vanilla 3DS version, it was possible to cancel the landing lag of all of Greninja's aerials and air dodge with Shadow Sneak. You can do it immediately, or you can delay it and potentially extend the range of Shadow Sneak. On the surface, this sounds great. You might be thinking Greninja could cancel landing lag with an attack leading to safer moves and potential follow-ups? That sounds broken!
But, and this is a big but,
Shadow Sneak takes a while to start up and you can hit Greninja out of this startup. The startup before Greninja disappears is 16 frames at the least, so the opponent can easily hit you out of the startup. Back air and up air still have the same amount of lag when you perform this technique, while neutral air flat out has more lag when you do it. Now, you could do this to make forward air 2 frames safer on shield, but the thing is that the opponent could just do an option select which can beat both a landing forward air and the Shadow Sneak cancel. And if the opponent reads that you are going to do the Shadow Sneak cancel, they can instead opt to wait, shield the Shadow Sneak, and then punish with the literal 3/4 of a second they have to do so. It can be useful for a landing down air or an air dodge since they are significantly laggier when landing, but again, the opponent can either do an option select punish or they can predict and heavily punish the Shadow Sneak cancel. The Shadow Sneak landing air cancel is an overall interesting mix-up Greninja had access to, but that's all it was. A mix-up. And an extremely risky one at that. It wasn't overpowered at all. It flat out kind of sucked. It was just a little mix-up Greninja had access to, and removing it was unnecessary but not particularly impactful, just like most of the nerfs Greninja got. Overall, do I think vanilla 3DS Greninja was overpowered or overrated? Overrated. Most definitely. While his up smash was insane and his up air was also really good, he just wasn't that great as a whole. His combo game was better on paper due to the up smash and up air differences, but his combos as a whole also had more counterplay due to the different LSI system. His frame data was worse for the most part. He was still relatively easy to combo compared to the rest of the cast. His disadvantage state was still bad. His zoning was worse due to his slower water shuriken. His out of shield game was worse relative to the cast due to his slower grab. Everything he did was riskier except for his up smash due to the lower shield zone, and he was still a very difficult character which lacked consistency. Does that sound like a top tier character to you? Most of his nerfs weren't really that significant and much of them were just irrelevant and baffling. The biggest and most reasonable nerf was to his up smash, but that is a move which either had to be used in specific scenarios or it had to be set up with something that was risky and or hard to land in order to be used effectively. It had definitive counterplay and the counterplay wasn't too difficult to apply either. It may have been overtuned, but an overtuned move does not make an overtuned character, and the move was still quite good after the nerfs. And the thing is that while Greninja did get some nerfs early on, he also got some pretty useful buffs later on. Greninja's neutral B and standing grab becoming significantly faster were two changes he heavily appreciated, and he got some other nice improvements as well. So at the end of the day, things did get better for Greninja. I also think Greninja benefited from the universal change of Smash 4 receive, with Greninja overall appreciating the removal of vertical LSI and the higher shield stun. It's honestly hard for me to say whether Greninja is better in the vanilla 3DS version or now, but what I can tell you is that the gap between them really isn't that big at all. If you want my opinion as to where I think Greninja would be on an optimized 3DS tier list, I would say somewhere in the upper mid tier. Maybe high tier if you are extremely generous, but definitely not top tier. The weaknesses he has in the final game were still there in the vanilla 3DS version, some of them were even more significant. Compare that to an actual top tier character like Sheik, whose strengths were even more prominent on vanilla 3DS while pretty much all of her weaknesses were less severe. Greninja's hype early on came from the fact that the game was new and optimized, and with people being unfamiliar with both the game and the Greninja matchup, it allowed him to flourish early on. People would have seen his positive traits early on without fully considering his weaknesses and counterplay against him, especially with the lack of resources at the time such as with frame data, resulting in people thinking that Greninja was amazing and better than he actually was. I am absolutely confident that if people had more time with this version of the game, more and more people's opinions on Greninja would have dropped, but since we got patches, that ended up happening a lot quicker. And unfortunately, the common modern narrative for vanilla Greninja is that Greninja was broken in vanilla 3DS, which, as I just explained, I understand why this was the sentiment when the game was new, but it is simply not true in retrospect. Not only this, but there is also a belief that either Greninja's later buffs were minor or that he continuously got nerfed. The former is underselling Greninja's buffs, as making his grab and potent projectiles significantly faster and turning one of his most egregiously bad moves into a decent spacing tool are more than just minor buffs. And the latter statement is just completely false. All you have to do to disprove that statement is to look at the Smash Wiki. After 1.0.4, Greninja got loads of buffs, including significant buffs and only a couple of meaningless nerfs. Yeah, This is definitely what a continuously nerfed character looks like. But now that I think about it, there was a character who was actually overpowered in vanilla 3DS, and then that character was actually continuously nerfed until the end. Now I wonder who that character was. Oh yeah, that pretty much perfectly describes Sheik in Smash 4. This is a narrative for Smash 4 Greninja which was completely false, but it was the exact case for Smash 4 Sheik. How interesting.
Thanks for watching.
Guys.
Just smash the like button, comment and subscribe.